all the news. It is about time we take a look at Wisconsin. Their official reports of the sighting from Marinette County. Does Bigfoot really live in the ground? Let's find out on this Quarters Lounge podcast. Along with the new, brand new quasi-theory. The chance a new heaven. Today's getting a lot more entertaining, folks. And now it starts here on the Squatches Loud podcast. And here's your host, Kelly.
Hello, and welcome to the NPR edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Indeed, I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly of the Unknown. And tonight, we're going to be talking about Wisconsin! Nah, screw all that NPR stuff. Welcome, everybody, to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Indeed, I am your host to this mess, the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and I am hatless. Hatless for the first time in probably 5 years. If you wanted to know what I look like with short hair, here it is. It's not really short, but that's right. My power comes from my hair like Samson in the night. We're going to be talking about Wisconsin, don't you know? That's right. If you're a fan of that 70s show, you can imagine Eric and the gang going out and looking for the Sam Squanch. Oh, Lord. Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be talking about here a little bit later on. But as usual, we start off with the news. There's some strange stuff. Well, now I guess I have to maximize one of these things if I would actually like Google to recognize one of them. We're learning as they change things, but they have been a lot better over the recent months. So I'm going to be very happy with that. Let's try this screen share thing once again. It's not showing it. It's not working. Why is it not working? Okay, well, we're going to start here from the beginning here. Gloucester Shower Live. A growling cat stalked lost walkers for more than a mile at a beauty spot in England, apparently. 7 people were stalked by a growling cat for more than a mile, as they are all adamant about what they saw. The panther-like creature followed the group from Woodchester to the car park, a distance of 1.3 miles after they became lost. One of the group contacted Gloucester Shower Big Cat Tracker Frank Turnbridge. That's right, you're famous in America now, Frank. After we ran a story last week of what happened to be a big cat roaming near Stroud. Look at that strapping, handsome fella. Yeah. Let's see if we can get the screen share to work. It should. It was working. I don't know what happened to it. Apparently, they've decided that they don't want us to. There we go. Now we're back in business. Okay. Now you can actually see the pages. Thank goodness. Hey. Just like on our way back out to the drive, they saw yellow eyes in the trees, like it was following us. There was a growl that closer we got to the cars, at the point we got scared and ran to the cars and put the lights on. There it was, right in front of us. It then jumped over the fence into the long grass where it seemed to be stalking us, growling. I don't like big cats. I don't like cougars. I don't like mountain lions. I don't like none of that stuff because they eat you. And just stay away from bad cats. So apparently they found some tracks and cast them, and they're going to do some stuff. Right along, IFL science, and we do. Apparently, there were far more Neanderthals than previously thought. You would think now that they're going to be able to get this touch DNA and all this stuff going on, this eDNA stuff going on. We're going to find out that, of course, everything was far more diversified than we actually thought, because we had like 1 or 2 fossils that actually told the story of the Neanderthals. What we knew about the Neanderthals may have been all wrong. It seems there were many more of our heavy-browed cousins than archaeological evidence suggests, and they most likely occurred as a species far earlier than anyone had thought. Imagine that. The more information we get, the more we learn. A new study has delved deeply into the genetics of Neanderthals, the arcane Denisovians, and ourselves to how all three species relate to each other. They found that despite the low genetic diversity, suggesting that there may have only been a few thousand Neanderthals stalking the forests of Eurasia, this is likely an error relating to how the species lived, and that it was much more probable that there were tens of thousands living in small fragmented populations, much like the Sasquatch of today. Imagine that. The research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences was able to reveal a number of new findings about the history of Neanderthals over the past million years. Amazingly, they were able to see that the lineage that would eventually give rise to the Neanderthals Denisovian splitting from our own ancestors, which is thought to have happened when Homo erectus migrated from Africa, as Dean seems to think, very nearly went extinct. That's right. So, as we always learn here on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, we're closely studying the human DNA because it's more pertinent to us, but it relates directly to those species, the Paranthropus, and that's kind of been my new focus of study. The bipedal, upright walking, looking, large-browed apes, the Paranthropus. And, that's most likely where Sasquatch is going to be. Like I've said, it's the fifth chimpanzee, somewhere around that line. Not of us, but beside us. At least that's my hypothesis on it. Now, look at this friggin' thing. Is this the Star Child all over again? Apparently not. This skull is so well preserved, scientists can see the young ape's unerupted teeth and an impression of its brain. Say what? Yeah, more than 13 million years ago, the now northern Kenya, an infant ape ended up dead in a lush forest and his body blanketed in ashfall from a nearby volcanic eruption. Otherwise, there would be nothing left of it. That's our problem. Okay, millions of years later, scientists uncovered the baby ape skull, the best preserved of its kind ever found, and got an extraordinary glimpse into the early stages of ape evolution. That's right. We've been looking for ape fossils for years. This is the first time we're getting a skull that's complete, says Isaiah Nengo, the college anthropologist who led the discovery, funded in part by a National Geographic study grant. Yeah, you had to throw that in there. Hey, Nat Geo, congratulations to you guys. That's going to be cool. Like, the more we find, the more we know. Million-year-old ape. We are apes, people. Okay. Some of our private group chats, we've been talking about this, the eclipse is coming, people, and weird shit's about to go down. Now, back in the day of the Aztecs, and I'm pretty sure that's the right word to use because we discussed it the other night, they would kill thousands of people by stabbing out their hearts because the clerics would tell them that this, and it was the only way to appease the sun god to turn the sun back on. The clerics knew this wasn't true. The nobles didn't. So that's why it was done. Don't sacrifice your brothers or sisters to the solar eclipse, please. Okay? It's not going to happen. It's not going to appease anybody. Don't do it. Speaking of that, agencies advise on possible lizard man and Bigfoot sightings in South Carolina during the eclipse. You can damn well guarantee the weirdos are going to come out. Amid the solar eclipse hype, which will bring millions of visitors to dozens of events happening across the state this month, here's the only thing you probably haven't prepared for: supernatural encounters. Luckily, several government agencies, yes, we are spending tax on this, have been ahead of the game, already highlighting on social media the possibility of paranormal activity as the sky goes dark mid-afternoon on August 21st. Hey, people, there's also a meteor shower that night. So don't think like the sun got broken up and shot into space and is now we're not going to have a sun in the morning either. It's going to return the next day. I promise. With the Carolinas history of lizard man and Bigfoot sightings, residents should be aware of the possibilities. At least the South Carolina Emergency Management Division thinks so. Thank you for spending taxpayer monies on that bullshit. speaking of bullshit, there is a video on my channel, on this channel here, about Lizard Man. If you just search at the top and find it, it's part of my Monster Info series that'll be coming back this fall. Okay, Carolina Bigfoot hunters find a Bigfoot. No, really? They run into a Bigfoot. That's what they say. Dude, are you kidding me? I mean, we've always said North Carolina. Kurt lives in North Carolina, good friend of the show. I know a bunch of people that are out there. I've hunted North Carolina myself. I've Sasquatched in North Carolina myself. There are Bigfoot there, but this is going to get really, really strange here in a moment. So if you thought Bigfoot never ventured down south, think again. Members of a group calling themselves, and we'll give them a tag, Bigfoot 911. That's right there, a North Carolina Sasquatch hunting group claimed they spotted the giant walking legendary creature in the woods of western North Carolina Friday night. Bruner posted on the Marion Group's Facebook page. It's a closed group page that the expedition in McDowell County hit pay dirt just before 11 p.m. The sighting came after 3 teams set up glow sticks at various locations, Bruner said. He describes how they heard movement in the woods 3 steps at a time, and the creature came into view near a glow stick about 30 yards away. The angle of the moon was shining straight down on the road, and something big stepped into view, Bruner said. I turned my headlamp on and saw a large bipedal animal covered in hair. It took 1 step into the woods. Then I took off running toward where it went into the woods. Bruner said the man animal was standing 30 yards to his right, with its right hand on the tree that had been broken off 9 feet above the ground. Solid black with no hair, he said. The hair looked shaggy all over its body. It turned and took 5 steps and was at the bottom of the hill, probably 30 yards. I could see the gluteus maximus flexing with each step. Okay, so up pops my feed another story. Oh, look, it's basically the same story. Large bipedal animal covered in hair was reported in North Carolina, McDowell County over the weekend. In other words, a Bigfoot, the ape-like creature that cryptozoologists believe roams the national backwoods. Okay, so the sighting happened just before 11 Friday in the forested area. No one was injured, though the group reports something threw rocks at them as they left the area. McDowell County is about 100 miles northwest of Charlotte. John Bruner of the Marion-based Bigfoot 911 group reported that the event on the group's Facebook page Saturday. So, geez, that's pretty freaking cool, man. That's what these guys are out there for. Let's hope there's some evidence of it. Let's hope they can, bring some audio, some tracks, something to the table of it. And then all of a sudden, I get this. Man vacationing in western North Carolina said he may have been mistaken as a Bigfoot in recent sighting. What the flying? Oh, really? Okay, so Marion, North Carolina, Fox, Carolina, a man has come forward and said he may have been mistaken for Bigfoot while vacationing in western North Carolina mountains. People across the United States started talking about Sasquatch sightings after Bigfoot search group reported a close encounter with the mystical creature on August 4th in the forest of McDowell County. The encounter was described in vivid detail on the Bigfoot 911 Facebook page. On Wednesday, a Minnesota man contacted Fox, Carolina, and said he believes the group encountered him while he was dressed in a special suit he created from raccoon and animal skins. Ian McGregor said he was in the woods performing spiritualistic rituals on the night of August 4th. McGregor said he's a shamanist and has been mistaken as Bigfoot before while wearing his suit. McGregor said he is too a believer, however. He has seen Bigfoot 7 times. McGregor said he did not throw rocks at anyone, though, as the Bigfoot hunters stated. The internet had fun with the Bigfoot sighting. Greenville police have issued a tongue-in-cheek warning for residents not to shoot Bigfoot if they see the animal, because it might be a jackass in a suit. Old Ewan McGregor here. No, I'm sorry, that's not his name. Gawain McGregor. That's close. Attention for being a shamanistic fool. Or were these people mistaken and they actually ran into a jackass in the woods who played a trick on them? Somebody better get these two groups together and hash it out, because if that's what happened, fine, we at least have a conclusion. If that isn't what happened, then let's be realistic about it. These people in North Carolina had a Bigfoot encounter while this asshole was out playing Jackson Pollock in the woods in a Bigfoot suit. All right. Some people will get that joke. Some people won't. Don't bring a black light. Let's just put it that way. Hey, Cliff Barackman wants you to remind you, Oregon Bigfoot Festival is almost here. August 19th, Glen Auto Park in Troutdale, Oregon. $5 suggested donation admission for adults. God bless you. $2 donations for kids 12 and under. That is friggin' awesome. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They ain't trying to make no cash on this stuff. They're just trying to cover their costs. By creepyacres.com. So Oregon Bigfoot Festival.weebly.com, and you can figure it out too. I wish I could go. One of these times I'm just gonna friggin' get there and get to these things. Maybe another couple of years we'll figure that out. Hey, speaking of figuring stuff out, the naked Sasquatch who attacked a hunter in Oregon woods has had his conviction overturned. That's right. If you don't remember this story, it was very, very strange. A naked man came out of the woods acting like a Sasquatch and attacked a hunter, and they had him locked up, and he was tried and convicted. The Oregon Court of Appeals Wednesday overturned the conviction of a man who attacked a hunter while naked in a rural Washington county and told authorities he was a Sasquatch from a family of Sasquatches. Linus Norgren. Burn that name into your mind, people. Norgren, okay? Lunatic who has bipolar disorder was having a mental break-in October 2013, so he couldn't have understood his Miranda rights despite telling a Washington County deputy that he did. According to the court ruling, Norgren also made incriminating statements to the deputy in addition to identifying himself as a Sasquatch, according to the court ruling. But the appeals court said when the Washington County Circuit Court judge was wrong, and so the defense motion to suppress Norgren's statements. So he ain't going to jail afterwards. He's just going to go to the hospital, probably. Speaking of things where they finally belong, Bob Gimlin has a website, and apparently he's having a documentary too. Bigfoot by Bob Gimlin, Beyond Bigfoot, a life of experience. Look at that handsome feller there with his ascot on. I'm telling you, man, I would wear them ascots one time, and then I would sell them suckers on eBay. I would autograph them for the ladies, maybe spray a little bit of Bob's cologne on them, and them suckers would be $19.99 first bid on eBay. Guarantee, boy. Look at that fella. He's just so. Anyhow, yeah, you can book him for events through the site. You can contact probably not him, but whoever builds and runs the site for him through here. And apparently, you can get the documentary, and the trailer is up there. It's 1:47. It's a good watch. I'm a fan of Bob. Bob's been called a liar in public way too many times and stood there and taken it. So I hope for his sake that he does very well with this. I really do. I mean, taken advantage of by Dr. Johnson way too many times. So we're at with the news this week, for sure. I'm looking for the unshare button now. I'm having a hard time tonight. I really am. All righty then. It gets us right down already to the time for us to get a new quasi update. Dean Cooper, brand new one this week. He was like, I'm on it, man. I'm going to have me a quasi update. So you stay tuned. So I stayed tuned, and sure enough, he came through. Let's find it here. Old Levitation. Let's see where he goes with this. Who could know? And now, quasi-theories from a quasi-scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Lighten up with levitation. Good old Elon Musk has been making news lately with his Hyperloop high-speed transportation idea. He actually invented the idea, though. The idea for running a magnetic levitation tunnel has been around a long time, decades at least. Levitation was about in the early 1900s, before 1950 anyway. You can also levitate stuff with sound, light, air, electrostatics, electromagnetism, both diamagnetically and electrodynamically. Or if you just want to levitate really tiny little things, like the catapults. But that's all proper science and levitation. Anybody can do that kind. Another kind needs special skills, occult skills. Water, for example. Liquid water, not the frozen kind. You're not sinking, so you must be levitating. We all know Jesus did it, but he's a latecomer to it. Pythagoras and the Buddha did it a good 500 years before the Son of God got around to pulling it off. Jesus presumably used God power. Away with them. Well, Pythagoras is said to have been the son of Zeus, and the Hindus say Buddha was an incarnation of the god Vishnu. Same propulsion method that Jesus did. Then there's yogic levitation. You can learn it at the Maharishi School in Fairfield, Ohio. That's $1,895 for an 8-day course, which includes learning the basic transcendental meditation, copyrighted, technique, but does not include room and board. The school was founded by the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, guru to the Beatles and the Moody Blues, among others. Demonstrating their yogic flying skills on YouTube. They looked like they were bouncing around on their butts in lotus posture, but who am I to judge? Levitation used to be popular among Roman Catholic saints. St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals, merchants, and, more recently, ecology, was frequently seen suspended above the earth, often to a height of 3 or 4 cubits. St. Alphonsus Liguria, when preaching at Foggia, was lifted before the eyes of the whole congregation several feet from the ground. St. Teresa of Avila claimed to have floated up about 1.5 feet while in prayer, but nobody saw her do it. She's a saint, so we have to believe it. Catholic saints have slacked off in the levitating department in recent centuries, although the recently sainted, lately departed Padre Pio is said to have been seen floating about. He could bilocate too, but then he did have stigmata. That's bleeding holes in his hands and feet from identifying with the crucified Christ, not to be confused with astigmatism. I have astigmatism, and it makes me wear glasses. I also have presbyopia, which makes my glasses bifocals, and has little to do with Presbyterians. I'm going to leave off here. We needn't sully religiously induced levitation with demonically produced flitting about, a la Linda Blair. That would be levitatious, and I wouldn't want to introduce levity into such a serious topic. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. It's BHAIDIN.com.
Well, there you have it. Levitation. You guys are just now catching up to the drama that I was having, but the drama has now passed. Speaking of drama now passing, let's get into the Squatchers Lounge Hangout Live and see who's out there hanging out with us tonight. I bet you there's a bunch of people out there. It's been an interesting show for me. Let's just put it that way. All right. Hey, I got a new way to make sure that I don't miss anybody out there. So let's take a look at our participants for the evening out there. Of course, we've got Mr. Dean, the quasi-man theory Cooper. He's drumming it up for us out there with drummer Forever 69. Mr. Gary Whitney White, they're hanging out. Thank you so much tonight. Excuse me. I don't know what I got all over me, but hey, Gin, how you doing, man? Of course, Mr. Jimmy Strap is out there. There's a Keith Harden as well. Mama Renee 32 is in the house. Mr. Fang 333, 3 and 3s and 3s and 3s. Is that like Naked Gun 33 and the third? Natalie Smith, she's hanging out in the house with us. Oreo Cream Rocks, she's checking in as well. Rod Dupree, he's always in the place to be. Sam Squanch Rivera, I see him as well. Squatch Box, I'm sure Christopher's by your side, or no, I think he might have got left back in Colorado. Either way, Starshine and Mr. William Morris has all checked in so far. Let's take a look and make sure that I didn't miss anybody, because I think I did. I know I saw Forrest Krabs earlier checked around as well, so I'm going to say hi to him. And Starshine, I know I said hello. Keith Harden, yes. Natalie Smith, Jimmy Strap. I believe I mentioned all these people. I hope, by goodness, that I haven't missed anybody. If I have, make sure you put it down there in the bottom, and I will make sure before the end of the show that I give you a shout out if I've missed anybody out there tonight. But it doesn't. Looks like that thing might actually. Oh, there's a Timothy McCune. I don't even remember seeing that guy's name on that list. Chris Cullinan checking in. See, there's all kind of weirdness, man. I ain't gonna trust that list no more. See, I would have never said Brown Dwarfs checked in as well. Now I'm just kind of confused as to who I've said and who I haven't said. Gone Camping's in there. How you doing, Jevin? Glad you're here as well. Wow. Now I don't know who I've said and who I haven't. So here we go. Here we go. I think I've actually probably said everybody by now. If I haven't, I'm so sorry. Nope. Xander Hansen was checked in. I didn't say that name yet. John Leland, how you doing? Glad you're with us as well. Haunted checked in. See, I don't understand. Elijah Lewis, hey, back at you. I know there might be more people up here too. See, man, Lance Windsor checked in. See, they didn't have any of these names on that list. It doesn't make any sense. What is a participant? Who? Billy John, how you doing? Yep. Is this thing on? It sure was. Glad you are there as well. Hey, if I missed your name tonight, I'm really sorry. I'll have to do it the old way again because none of it makes any sense whatsoever. William Morris, if I didn't say hi, I have now. Other than that, I think I covered just about everybody else I can see. Let's get into it, people. Let's talk about Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Bigfoot, don't you know? Yeah, we're going to do that here in just a moment. Where's it at? Of course, it's not there because it wasn't ready for it to be there. No, it wasn't. Where we're talking about tonight is a very strange place. I was expecting mountains. I didn't realize that Wisconsin didn't really have any mountains, but then I really kind of got to thinking about it. Like, why would there really have to be mountains, especially there? Wisconsin is a very northern state. It snows there. There we go. Now we're getting a look at it. And if you look, this Marinette County that we're looking at is right at the edge of everything national forest all the way to the Canadian border, which then turns into national parks. So we're in the lowlands of the beginning of the mountain ranges. There literally are no interstates that run up past Green Bay. The Cheetah Squatch, as Wes was calling them earlier on, these would be animals that are most likely still here, leftover populations from before we invaded this country and destroyed it for what it was. So here's our area of quarry for the evening. That's right. We're going to look right in here because there's a few places to be listed and be able to be seen. So let's take a look at the official Bigfoot reports. Starting out in the year 1979 in August, Marinette County. I was out looking for deer with my mother and my sister. We would drive the back roads and check certain fields and roadways and keep count of the deer. At the time, the area was still mostly wilderness. My mother was driving this night, and I was riding in the back seat. It was a warm night, and we were riding with the windows down. As we pulled up on the intersection, we had a stop sign, and we were stopped. I looked over to the right, and I noticed a big brown animal about 10 yards away. It looked to be about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. I could not identify the animal, but I know it was not a bear. While I was looking at it, when it stood up, I would estimate that it was over 8 feet tall. Window up right away because the animal was just standing there looking at us. As we continued down the road, my mother asked what I thought the animal was. I said, "What animal?" At the time, I was unaware that they had also seen it. My mother said, "The animal that caused me to roll up my window." That's one of those cases where you're out looking and you're not prepared, and there all of a sudden, there it is. It steps out of myth and legend. 1979, again, father and son grouse hunting near Pembrine, October, near the Cataline Road. On October 20th, 1979, we saw a dark form cross the road as we headed out grouse hunting in Marinette County. It crossed where there were no roads or house. It was one solid color, not carrying any gun or fishing rod. The time was approximately 6:45 a.m. Back then, my dad had doubts about what we were traveling with. My dad, my brother, and I. At the time, my brother and I thought it was a Bigfoot. However, 30 years later, my dad now swears it was a Bigfoot. That's funny how time will change people's opinion. I can't talk about Bigfoot. You'll be crazy. People will just absolutely call you crazy. You don't want to be crazy, do you? Skies were clear, but it was just about after sunrise. Seen one there before after 20 years of hunting? Yeah. You ever seen a blonde bear? No, I have. Okay. 1981, couple see a large biped walking in a ditch near Marinette. Heading east on Radar Road towards County BB, whatever that means. One evening, my girlfriend and I went for a ride to look for deer. We would take rides 3 or 4 times a week, mostly riding the back roads. One evening, as we were driving down a road, Radar Road towards County BB, I noticed someone walking in the ditch on the right side of the road. At the time, I kept my eyes on him because I thought he was walking on the roadway. As I drove nearer, I noticed that he was walking in the ditch. About this time, my girlfriend asked me, "What was that walking on the roadway?" I told her that it was not walking on the roadway, but in the ditch, which was about 5 feet below the roadway. I knew the depth because my brother and I went smelting there a few times. I explained to her that whatever was walking there had to be about 8 or 9 feet tall. She wanted to turn back and drive by it again to get a closer look. I told her no, that we would go around the back way, which would take about 30 minutes. I wanted it to be gone when we came back. I was going to bone my girlfriend, but then we saw a Sam Squanch, and she said, "No way." It was about 9:30 p.m. after girlfriend, now my wife. So, yeah, you married that chick. You see goofy things, you do goofy things, I guess. It's the year 1999. Tracks found by hunters, and then a creature was seen. Their first encounter happened about an hour before sunrise on the first day of the hunting season. Him and his father were walking to their stands in the morning hunt. We got down onto the swamp and crossed the first stream so that we were now in the south bank heading west. Shortly after we crossed, I noticed something was following us in a parallel path about 30 to 50 yards to the south. We walked it, and it walked with us. It was still very dark, and the vegetation too thick to be able to see anything. We could hear it, but that was it. We also noticed a dank, musky odor, although faint at this point. After going approximately 1/4 of a mile to the west, we had to turn southwest and follow a short trail around some deadfalls to reach an old wagon trail which went to our stands. Maybe 30 yards when something directly in front of us, maybe 20 yards, started screaming and howling. It made the hair stand up on the back of both of our necks. I couldn't figure out what it was. I flashed my flashlight this direction and got a reflection from a set of eyes, which weren't the usual color of a reflection for deer, bear, raccoons, or opossums. The eyes seemed to have been 7 to 10 feet high. As it was very dark, I couldn't make out anything more. I assumed it was something like a coon or a bear in a tree. The odor mentioned above was stronger now. Both my father and I turned around and moved as fast as possible through rough terrain back to the stream, where we sat down behind some logs and faced the direction of where we encountered the animal. As the sun came up, I could make out some dark patches of fur moving through the deadfalls 100 or so yards into the distance. Well, and then crossed back to the north side of the stream, where we found a different way around the deadfalls by crossing the same stream to its south bank further, and then heading south around the lurch and hunting the rest of the morning. We went back using our new route and avoided the area of the encounter. We noticed that something had relieved itself, feces. They looked more human than anything he's ever seen in the woods before, in the middle of the dead tree over the stream where we crossed. It was very odd, to say the least. It seemed like terrible behavior to me. We noticed tracks on the old wagon trail we followed to our stands also the next day. Well, yeah, I think that's a male, territorial male telling you, I kind of like this place. I'd like you to get out. Get off the lawn, you little bastards. I was here first. Let's see here, the year 2013. Spring. Gotta love April showers. Pembine, Wisconsin, which I believe is down there in the corner of this county that we're talking about. They're on the road City 00. I was leaving my cabin heading back to the Pembine area to Green Bay. As I rounded a corner and headed south on County Road 00, I saw a figure across the road. It walked slowly from east to west as though not in any hurry. I viewed it from the area just above the elbow up. It had a pointed head with very broad shoulders and large biceps. I could see the arms swing as it walked, just as humans do. Its color was brown, a mix of dark and light brown, with the sun shining off it. It was not black. I sped up to get a good look at it, and it was gone. I stopped where I saw it cross the road to the east. The area was open with scrub brush, and its color would have blended perfectly into the surrounding area. It was early spring, and there were no leaves on the trees. I could only see to the hills and would have had to have gone 100 to 150 yards down sight that quickly. Wow. Neat. Road crossing and then disappears. Hiding in plain sight, maybe. Went around the corner and just stopped. Didn't move. In the year 2014, November time, Route 141 north into Marinette County to Pembine, Wisconsin. My mom seen a creature she could not explain on our hunting property. It was crouched over. She said it turned to look at her, and she knew it weren't no bear. She called me right away to come look. And when I looked at the spot where it was, something had covered its tracks. Apparently, they needed a little more information. The BFRO investigator replies. He spoke to the submitter, the son, about the sighting his mother had on their property while deer hunting. It was 1:30 p.m. Son was less than a mile away also hunting when his mom saw the creature and called him, very frightened. She saw it rise up from a 4-point stance. It appeared to be looking over some tracks on the ground in the light snow cover. Looked at her. She described it as 600 pounds or more, large head, pointy ears on the side, and much larger than a bear. The creature had fur, and she seemed to have startled it as she came upon it suddenly and was 20 yards from it. When it stood up, she was scared, turned and ran to her tree stand, and then called her son. When he arrived and scouted the area, he saw broken branches, tracks in the snow, and noticed bad smells. He had the eerie feeling of being watched, and he had smelled that smell before in the area. The mother had said she had never seen anything that big before in their woods. These two are very experienced in the woods, and they have seen bears, wolves, and mountain lions. It's like nothing they had ever experienced before. So, taking a good look at the satellite here, there's absolutely, if we're talking about a case where Sasquatches roamed the American woods long before the colonials came here and cut everything down and built up all these cities, they could very much so be still living in these areas that we're looking here. We're in the middle of the state forest, we're in the middle of the national forest, and then we run right into the wilderness areas that go clear up into Canada. Why not? I mean, I've seen less likely places that will probably still hold Bigfoot here and there. How long can they have Bigfoot in there, Reverend Jeff? Well, honestly, if there's 100 animals breeding in this county, they could probably breed in there for 300 years before they get into genetic problems. Long time. So, thinking on that, I don't see why Marinette County should be doubted. Wisconsin looks squatchy to the old Reverend. That's for sure. And with that, we're going to wrap up our discussion of the Wisconsin Bigfoot. We've got one more thing for you tonight, and that, my friends, is a Bigfoot campfire story. That's right. We are doing the tanker truck tonight. That's right. This one actually comes out of Idaho, but it was kind of the closest thing I had to Wisconsin that I could bring up for this evening. If you guys are in or near Sacramento and are interested in Bigfoot hunting here close to Sacramento, I've got some new sightings that I'm going to be investigating here this fall, but I'm looking for 2 or 3 good campers. That's all you got to be. Decent in the woods, off-grid camping, not afraid to poop in the woods. Give me an email, sloungepodcast@gmail.com. I want to set up a small team and see if we can't get to the answers of some of these sightings. So with that, I want to thank every single one of y'all for being out there tonight. I'm here. You were there. That made this whole thing awesome. And we are going to now listen to our Bigfoot campfire story for the evening. Thank you so much. And may the Squatch be with you. What the hell is that? I'm sure that. Let me tell you this story. These are based on true events. Welcome to another Bigfoot campfire story. This story was told to me at a KOA near Charleston, South Carolina. A tanker trucker driver named Trey had a run-in with an unknown animal while making a haul along Interstate 90 in Idaho. It took him nearly 2 decades to tell the story, and I was lucky enough to hear it firsthand. Well, the boss was famous for setting up late loads, and this happened to be one of those days. I got back to the office in Coeur d'Alene, and he decides I've got to deliver an emergency tanker load down I-90 to Cataldo. Not being one to pass up double pay, I hooked up the tanker and started to head out. But they caught me at the gate and delayed me by nearly an hour. And it was already getting dark. Finally, they got the paperwork in order and sent me off to the location. Since it was December, a really, really cold night, I was praying the roads would be safe enough and the snow would keep away long enough to not need chains to get into town, because that was never fun. Well, I managed to get out on I-90, and the sun was now well gone, and that thick black blanket of dark they call night around here had set in. And as I started to travel into the mountains, I always get that eerie feeling driving through the mountains like this. I don't see the best in the dark anymore. Well, the tales of the phantom hitchhikers and the crazy trucks that try to run you off the road always come to mind as well. They always creep me out. Well, the traffic wasn't too bad. The truck was running well up and down the hills, but the peaks and the bottoms were starting to get slick with ice. Well, I finally started into the national forest, and the hills started getting steeper and longer, and that tanker was filled to the top with ethanol, so there just was no room for error. So I slowed my pace, took my time, and like always, I should have been just fine. About 30 minutes into the forest, as I was descending a hill near Mason Creek, I come across some kind of animal that ran out in front of my rig. There was no time to brake, but it had to be big as I caught a glimpse of the head just as I thought, what the hell is that? Well, I slammed on the brakes, but there was no stopping it. The rig rolled right over and come to a sliding halt stop right at the bridge. Well, I quickly got unbuckled and climbed out of the driver's side window as fast as I could and ran down the hill to a safe distance. I noticed the smell of the ethanol strong on the air, definitely leaking the payload. A few cars had passed me and stopped up the hill, and they must have called 911 as I could clearly hear the services coming already. Well, the first to show up was the sheriff, and he and I walked around the other side of the truck, and that was when we first spotted the creature, or what was left of the poor mangled thing, pieces of the cab of the truck. The upper body was laid out in a way that there was no doubt is what we were looking at. Cone-shaped head, covered in hair, those weird long arms, well, arms, one was nowhere to be found. The sheriff had no idea what to make of it, but we knew that it was a Bigfoot, but no one wanted to admit it. That was when I realized that this wasn't a deputy, but this was the sheriff. Well, we went back to his cruiser. He told me to stay put as he called the fire trucks and told them to hold back until further notice. And as if it was no big deal, this lawman took a road flare, lit it, and threw it directly into the leaking tanker truck. Then he forced me into the cruiser and drove further a distance back. And as we sat in the car, he warned me to never speak of what we saw that day, to never tell a soul that Bigfoot are real, as it will mean nothing but trouble for me if I did. He threatened me that they could make me disappear right now as part of the explosion. I asked what explosion, and just then the tanker truck erupted into a blast. I swore I'd keep my mouth shut, and I started the car once more. He called the fire trucks the rest of the way in, but by the time they got there, the evidence of any animal had long since burned away. Well, I swore to the sheriff that day that I'd keep my silence, and for nearly 2 decades I did. I only tell you now because times have changed, and people should know these animals are out there. This poor driver got the shock of his life when he destroyed his rig, hitting a Bigfoot. This type of thing must happen more often than we know, as it seemed there was a plan to hide the evidence. What is it that they don't want us to know? Thanks for listening. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you. I just promised I'd say hi to those people I missed earlier. Was Robe. Yeah, that guy. Rob Robbles, Forest Groves. And I think I saw somebody else come in here late. Was now I don't know everybody's. Jonathan Dowdy. So hello to all of you people as well. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next Wednesday. And may the Squatch be with you.